Down here on my hands and knees, I'm digging an escape tunnel to the casket. Rivulets of rain trail my progress from outside, pooling under me as I hack at the hardpack with this trenching tool. It's tough going. I take a break and call Ice. "Oh man," I tell her, "what I've come to. Look at me, covered with mud like a chocolate cookie. And you look different." She says, "That's what acquired skin disease does to people. Haven't you been watching the news?" "No. All I can think about is Dad and what they might be doing to him. And then having to get into that coffin and having to wait there until maybe someone will dig me up just to check for messages from the kidnappers. And there haven't been any messages. I'm telling you, Ice, you wouldn't believe what I'm going through." "And you? What do you mean you're turning black?" She says, "Acquired skin disease changes skin color, and that's what I'm here working on." "And it rubs off?" She laughs like it was nothing at all. "Well, it's pretty hard not to catch it, too, when everybody around is infected. The city, the country, the whole continent is infected." "So now you're telling me that you're a black person? Is that what you're telling me?" "Skin-wise, I guess you could say that." "Just like that? You're not even white anymore?" "It's different for different people. Some people change sooner, some later. Some people are just carriers of the virus and never change at all. That's what's so fascinating about this disease." "It's fascinating that you're black?" "Yes, because aside from changing one's skin color, acquired skin disease is absolutely harmless. So you're white, now you're black. What's the difference anyway?" "There's nothing wrong with being black, is there, Vinny?" "Well, there's nothing wrong with being white either. I mean, the way you looked. Oh, Ice, the way you looked. And now you look like..." "Well, if how I look isn't okay with you, Vinny..." No, of course. However you look is, well, I mean, if that's what you are now, black and all, I'm glad you feel that way, Vinny, because if you don't..." And she clicks me off. I am so tired, but I gotta keep digging. How long have I been in here? My legs are cramped. Oh, I hurt all over. Maybe a little diversion would take my mind off it. I asked Kelper for a star-killing update. The news thing says, "The saga of the mystery child deepens." I've shown video of Show Queen's corpse, Billy Boyman in handcuffs, and the test tube baby. The news thing says, "They're calling it the miracle child, snatched from the jaws of death, from a makeshift womb implanted in the body cavity of its ill-fated trans-star mother. DNA testing will soon leave no doubt of paternity. We asked Billy Boyman's wife, actress Karina Caress, how she feels about the possibility that her husband conceived this loved child with Show Queen. She says, 'That's ridiculous. Billy Boy would never have a baby with another man.' The news thing says, 'And what are viewers saying?' An elderly woman says, 'All of this just makes me sick.' A teenage girl exclaims, 'They did it how? Well, that's sure not how I'd do it.' A mother standing behind a row of her children says, 'You get them wherever and however you can.' And so what if Billy Boyman is the dad or not? Does anyone really even care?" A man on the street says, "You know, sometimes with real love, there's just no stopping people." A pair of news things say, "And as for the murder of Show Queen, stay tuned for more star killing. News now, or before it even happens. Star killing, Crime worth watching. Another news thing says, grassroots support for the poll election initiative is growing by leaps and bounds. As this Baltimore shopper tells us, hey, people change their mind every day. And we're supposed to be stuck with this elected turkey for 4 years? Give me a break. A woman says, if it's a matter of technology, look, the poll numbers are changing right before our eyes. So why not just measure exactly who the people want anytime, all the time? What are we waiting for? The news thing throws in. And as for President Stickman, his numbers aren't looking too good right now. I'm trying to straighten out my leg to get rid of the cramp when I get a call from Vida. Vinny, did you see that? This is really getting out of hand. If that amendment catches fire and the voting goes to insta-polling, the president is concerned, very concerned. A poll election every 30 minutes? Listen, Vinny, something has to be done, and it has to be done now. So, whatever you're doing, drop it, because the president needs 100% of your attention on him. Do you understand, Vinny? Are you listening? I lay my trenching tool in the muddy water, and she clicks me off. I sit there in the muck, watching more news now. A news thing says, with all these rapid-fire changes in the marketplace, is it any wonder that kidnapping's gone retail? A man, his wife, and 2 daughters are seated on a living room couch. The man says, it was in the morning. We were coming out of a restaurant with the kids, and these guys walked right up to me and hit me with a stun gun. Then they put a bag over Janice's head, threw her in the trunk of a car, and drove off. The whole thing lasted maybe 30 seconds max. Then we just had to wait. The news thing says, that must have been very terrifying. No, actually it wasn't, because thanks to our kidnap training, we knew exactly what to do. I immediately checked our credit line, so I knew to the penny how much we were worth and how much I could borrow. You have to know that at all times, because the kidnappers will find out in a heartbeat, and your numbers have to jive. You don't want them to think you're messing with them. From the training, I knew not to call the auto cops, because the kidnappers would know instantly, and then, of course, they would just kill Janice. So, we waited. Then came the first call. They showed her with a gag in her mouth, then a blowtorch in somebody's ears. But you have to realize that those ears could have been anyone's ears. They could have been made of plastic for all I know. No, the first thing you'll learn in the training is not to get rattled, no matter what you see. Anyway, they gave me a figure, and that was more than twice our credit line, and I told them, hey, that's way more than I could get, and I kept to that story, because from the training, I knew that they knew what the real number would be, and they said they'd get back to me. And the waiting? Asked the news thing. Well, thanks to the training, I wasn't worried at all. But it did upset the girls. And then? Asks the news thing. The wife, obviously unharmed by the episode, answers. Fortunately, since we'd all taken the training, I knew just to relax. These were young guys with tattoos and pins and rings and things stuck in their faces, but I could tell that was all just for show. They confessed to me that if it wasn't for the money, they'd rather be playing video games. They were just kids, and I knew from the training I wouldn't be with them very long, because the final deal would be out of their league, and they'd have to sell me up the food chain. And sure enough, it wasn't 30 minutes before they put the bag back on my head, took me for a ride, and handed me over to some regular-looking people. And you know, they were just as nice could be. And then, ask the news thing? The woman's husband responds. After that, it all went like clockwork. They called me, and we settled on the real number, and then I authorized the borrowing, liquidations, and transfers and all, and in 10 minutes, they dropped Janice off safe and sound. The wife hugs her husband and tells him, "You were fantastic." The news thing says, "That was just this afternoon, and you don't seem upset at all. But aside from the danger, haven't you lost everything, your life savings, even your happy home?" "Oh, no. Thanks to our abduction policy with the insurance guy, everything was covered, so it didn't cost us a dime." Guy appears on InVision, and I stop digging as he says, "Gone are the days when kidnapping was something that happened to other people. Why risk everything you hold dear? Just stop for a second and ask yourself, is it really worth it?" A female ad helper says, "Call the insurance guy today, and you won't regret it tomorrow. Call right now." That name to call is the insurance guy, because when you're in the market for insurance, you can make the insurance guy your guy. Just say, "Guy, the insurance guy." And I'm thinking, but for the lack of a lousy insurance policy, I'm down here jabbing away at hardpack with this lousy shovel. I hear Al's voice behind me in the opening of the tunnel. "Hey man, it's morning. You really ought to get something to eat." Filthy and exhausted, I back out of the tunnel, roll onto my back, and look up at the albino holding a breakfast tray. He bends down with the bacon and eggs, taters, toast, and jam, and coffee and orange juice, and I ask him, "Are those real potatoes?" He says, "Are you kidding?" I tell Al, "You know, if I could have just one wish, just one, you know what that wish would be? It would be that everything wouldn't be so damn hard." Tell me, Al, why does everything have to be so hard? Well, maybe if you asked for a little help, things would get easier. I crawl out of the muck and turn the job over to Al. He makes a call, and before I finish breakfast, an auto hoe pulls up at the back of the motel. He dials in the earth removal plan, and Sis and I watch as the robot widens and deepens the tunnel I have been working so hard on. The glowing coffin lies in the dirt off to one side. This is going to be a huge improvement, much deeper, as big as a comfy den. Ready access to the coffin. No more mud. First comes the concrete slab, then a steel stairwell down to the hide-a-bed, toilet, sink, and shower, hot plate, and fridge. First class. And as for security, with all that additional dirt overhead, not even God will be able to listen in. Al shuts off the auto hoe and walks over to us. Sis massages his shoulder. I ask him, "Why are you doing this for me?" Al looks at Sis and smiles. I'm taking a shower in my bathroom when the water stops just as I douse my head with shampoo. Naked in the open, rusted tub with suds flowing into my eyes, I get a priority call from President Stickmin. "Is this a bad time for you, Vinny?" he asks. Oh, no, sir. Vida appears. I grope for a towel. Stickman says, about this appearance thing, you know what they're saying about me? The pundits? They're saying, just look at the guy. Well, listen, Vinny, what I need most is for them to be looking at somebody else for a while. He looks disappointed as he continues. You know, I took you for a quick study, Vinny. You seemed like a guy that knows which way the wind is blowing. So, do you know what we expect you to do now? Well, I answer as best I can. Then I know I can count on you, Vinny. Vida, fill him in on the details. Oh, and Vinny, remember, when the going gets tough, you know what tough is, don't you, Vinny? Yes, sir, I certainly do. He kind of squints and tells me, well, you haven't seen anything yet, and clicks me off. Vida says, okay, Vinny, get back to digging for that poop we're looking for, and I mean get the real poop this time. I call Dr. Bull and tell him, look, you were right. I do have more in mind than I told you. It's a new kind of game. Stalking justice. Something entirely new. And I'm designing it with you in mind from the get-go. A game like this, it can't miss. So listen, Dr. Bull, we gotta talk. I meet him in the flea market and start with a chit-chat. Man, nice shirt, orchids and plumeria, and the mask. I gotta tell you, Dr. Bull, the way the whole Hawaiian thing contrasts with that black mask, yakety-yak, etc., etc. Then, moving on to something more substantial, I comment on the flea market. Can you believe how fast this place is changing? What was it last time? People selling bubble gum on cardboard boxes, and now it's accounting, hairstyling, travel, podiatry, real estate. It's starting to look like a regular megaplex, almost like the real world. The bull man leads me off in the direction of the geekery. You know, Vinny, all this talk about changing, as far as I can tell, stuff just evolves, and that's how it is. I tell him, I wanted to ask you more about that. What is your opinion of evolving, actually? Do you think what's evolving is good, or is it evil? He considers before answering, and that's good. It shows that he's taking this seriously. He says, it all depends, because if things get better, you can't argue with that. And if things get worse, well, that just speaks for itself. Guiding the conversation, I tell him, when things get bad, would you say that's due to the presence of evil? No, probably more to do with bad luck. Well, what do you think about evil? Not much, he answers. But you seem to be very interested in evil. I tell him, well, evil is my bread and butter, designing action heroes who conquer evil. But I want to know your take on evil, Dr. Bull. He thinks for a moment, then tells me, evil is bad news any way you look at it. But is evil always bad? He's getting bored with the conversation. Evil is just as bad as you want to make it, no more, no less. Seriously, I say, to be bad, now that's one thing, but to be evil, isn't that something else entirely? Dr. Bull stops walking. What are you fishing for, Vinny? That evil gets more points than plain old ordinary bad, that it might take 100 regular bads to measure up to one honest-to-goodness evil? I was thinking, I tell him, Maybe evil is something entirely different than bad. Whatever you say. But what do you say, Dr. Bull? What do you believe evil really is? Boy, you are really hung up on this, aren't you, Vinny? We come to the intersection with the old rugged cross. I point out the fresh blood on it. I ask the bull man, "Can you believe this thing?" Then he just goes off on me, completely unhinged. "What do you want from me, Vinny? Do you want me to say that it's obvious? That I know evil when I see it? Or that there's really no such thing as evil? Or that evil is whatever you want to make of it? Do you want me to say that evil is just something that people invented to scare other people, like the boogeyman? Or do you want me to say that evil is more paradoxical, that even after evil has completed its nasty business, sometimes things seem to turn out okay anyway? Or hey, surprise, sometimes after evil runs its course, things can turn out to be even better than before. Do you want me to say that? Do you want me to say that the Lord moves in strange ways, maybe even evil ways? Or should I say, don't let evil get you down, because there's always a silver lining? Or maybe evil is actually necessary, because unless we're tested by evil, how can we prove how good we really are? Or maybe you'd like me to tell you that evil is actually pretty good, because it's all just relative anyway. Would you like me to say that? Or that since everything is all chaos anyway, so what's the big deal? And even anarchy for that matter. Maybe that isn't such a bad thing either. I could tell you that even with all the blood and gore and severed limbs and heads and children blown up and the millions of victims who never hurt anyone, even with all of that, would you like me to say that under certain circumstances, evil might really be something indispensable for clearing away all the dead wood? Or, as a matter of fact, evil could even be seen as some kind of higher good, and on certain divinely special occasions, evil might just be the supreme good of all. He stops and takes a breath. Is that what you want me to say, Vinny? All I can think of is, honestly, I don't know. No, you don't know, but you're fishing for something. And you're still not leveling with me, are you, Vinny? He's looking at me, hands on his hips, disappointed, spent. Leaving the geekery, we walk silently for a while until we come to a hot dog stand. He snaps out of his funk and says, "I'm hungry enough to eat a dog." He orders a Polish dog and kraut from the girl behind the counter. I tell him, "Hey, I know her. Dog bait. How you doing?" "Looks like you got a new job." "Yeah, I got so good at swatting flies that they promoted me to waitress. But what I really want to do is cook." The masked man cuts his Polish dog into small pieces, dabbing each piece in mustard before sliding it through the mouth hole in his mask. Stray mustard paints yellow lips around the edge of the hole. "So, Vinny, do you think you got what you were looking for?" he asks me. "I think so." "I thought you might." After the meal, I part company with Dr. Bull, and on my way out of the flea market, I bump into Al chatting with Guy. I tell them, "I didn't know you knew each other." "Oh, yeah," says Al. "We go way back." I ask them, "What's that?" Al points to a sign above our heads that reads, "Child Mart." Guy says, "It's a major facet of our self-preparedness program. I mean, just think about it. When you're old and too feeble to make it to the potty on your own, wouldn't it be a blessing to have a son or daughter to hold your hand when you sit down?" Al says, "But you know, sometimes the biggest stumbling block for people is just having kids. Just having them can take up a lot of time, and it's one hell of a nuisance. Guy says, and that's where my fertility and development policy is just what the doctor ordered. With one simple reproduction protection plan, any man, woman, or other kind of person can insure themselves against childlessness, so they're sure to have exactly the kid they want, the way they want it, when they want it. And after delivery, we offer a kitty care rider coverage from the little nipper's birth through schooling, up to and for as long as you want to pay for it. This kid-proof protection plan takes the care right out of caring. As for any supplemental parenting, the rider covers surrogates, nannies, tutors, teachers, trainers, counselors, healers, and life path gurus. You name it, and you got it covered. I ask Al, and you're involved in this too? Oh yeah, says Al, as he guides me around the corner and under a banner reading, Motherland. Inside, cheerful aisles are wallpapered with pigs, rabbits, and pixie fairies, a backdrop for tidy booths staffed with attractive young women, each wearing their own theme attire. Miss America, in crown and gown, sits on her throne, a jeweled scepter on her lap. Jocular Jenny, in full-bosom tank top, looks fit to run a marathon. Eggs in a Basket identifies as a farm girl in gingham. Mother Lode, in miner's hat with lamp, leans on her pickaxe. My Sprouts Are Your Sprouts hands out alfalfa juice to passers-by. An unoccupied rickshaw, with a parasol lying on its seat, fills the space labeled Carriage Shop. Its hindmost wheel is secured to the wall with a chrome-plated chain. Pointing at the women, Al asks, "What do you think of my bevy?" Then, out of the crowd steps Sis in a black wig and kimono. Al says, "This is my little sparrow. Isn't she amazing?" And he tries to steal a kiss. "Stop it," Sis protests. "You'll smear my makeup." She opens the parasol and takes her seat in the rickshaw. "I was going to show you, Vinny, but you found me first. So how do you like my cherry blossom fan and geisha face and hair and all? You know, this real used to be someone else's real hair once upon a time, and this real silk, doesn't it match absolutely perfectly with everything and all? And look at my teeny tiny lips painted like a squinchy little bow tie and my eyes after the toxic injections. I bet you can't even tell that I'm not actually one of them, can you?" "And the name, the Carriage Shop?" I ask. "Yes. Isn't it incredible that women or men or others too for that matter can either bring their own basic stuff from wherever they want right here with them, or if there's some problem with their own stuff they can just flip through the catalog and pick whichever pretty little gametes they like, and you can't even guess what it's worth to people to skip all the fuss and muss, not to mention kissing off 9 months of their very own lives for something they can get right off the shelf delivered right to their doorstep. Don't you think?" "But what about your body, Sis? I mean, after all." Her bow tie lips shrink into a pout and she asks me, "Well, what else am I good for?" Al assures me, "Hey, no need to worry about this little chickadee, because we do our homework. Every consumer's credit is checked out for the whole Padula. All the business is squared away rock solid before one cell ever gets inseminated or implanted into anybody. So we're absolutely sure she won't get left holding the bag." A middle-aged couple eyeing Sis steps up to the rickshaw to check her out. The woman examines her fingernails. The man motions for Sis to stand. He measures the width of her hips between the palms of his outstretched hands and tells the woman, "Hey, a good 24 inches, I'd say."